We are finally approaching the spring season, and that means countless flowers are going to bloom in the coming days and weeks, and I, for one, cannot wait. And so, in honor of the spring season, or as we call it in Filipino as tagsibol, I have created tutorial videos on how to draw 3 spring blossoms, which are the lily of the valley, cherry blossoms, and a mysterious flower, which we are going to draw today. I am going to show you the step-by-step process on how to draw these flowers, and also on how to turn them into digital stickers, which you can use in your digital planner, or if you prefer to print them out, that is fine too. Also, watch out for the next 2 videos as I will release them very soon. So make sure you are subscribed to the channel and your notification bell is turned on so you'll get notified once it is available. I will also add the links in the description box below, so check that too in case it is already available. Let's open our Procreate app and let's begin. The settings of my canvas is shown in the screen right now, and I will be using a square canvas, but you can use any dimension that you want. Just make sure that you will be able to use at least 23 layers to be able to create this digital artwork. The first step that I usually do is sketch out the design. So for the sketch, you may use any brush and color that you like. For me, I am using the technical pen under inking, which came with the Procreate app. It is always a good idea to sketch what we want to draw first. We may be working on a digital platform, and sure, it gives us the ability to undo or redo and erase any actions that we have made, but it is still a good practice to lay out the plans. It is better to be prepared than worry about what you should do in the middle of your heightened and motivated periods. Instead, use those time to bring to life your ideas. So here, as you can see, I am drawing the petals of this mysterious flower. And you might be wondering, what mysterious flower is it? Well, I am wondering myself because I intended to draw the crocus flower, but when I finished the artwork, it looks more like a tulip to me. So follow me on how to create this mystery flower, and at the end, help me decide what flower this is. Is it a crocus, a tulip, or a whole different flower? Let me know in the description box below later on. So when drawing the petals of this flower, think of an oval with its tip coming to like a slightly pointed shape. And if you want to show that your flower hasn't fully bloomed yet, make your rightmost and leftmost petal curvy as I did here on the smaller flower. As for the leaves of this plant, I made it longer and thinner because I was aiming for the crocus plant. Also, if you want to move things around, you can use the selection tool in freehand option and select the part of your sketch which you want to move, then tap the arrow icon to change its location. You can also rotate it a little if you want. But if you want to move the entire sketch or every element in your current layer, just tap the arrow icon. I will be moving my sketch to the center of the canvas, and you can use the snapping tool for the guides to appear. And when it is done, tap the arrow icon again. And since this is our sketch layer, I want to lower its opacity by going to the layer menu and tap on the letter N in the layer, and the menu option will appear, and just toggle this opacity option to change the opacity, and I will be adjusting mine to 24%. Then let's create a new layer by tapping this plus icon here. Let's first draw the leaves here, and I am choosing which shade of green I am going to use. I don't want my colors to be super bright, so I think I will use this one. I am also changing the streamline of my technical pen to 50%. To help on drawing the leaf, I am rotating the canvas by pinching it while rotating. And it is also okay to redo and draw it over and over again. We are drawing digitally, so you can do undo by tapping the screen with 2 fingers. Now for the stem of our flowers, let's create a new layer, and it should be below the layer of our leaf. I also use a darker shade of green for this one. For the sepal of the flower, I just drew some spiky lines in there. And make sure that your shape is close so that when we are going to use color fill later on, the color will not spill out. And let's do that again for the smaller flower. And then let's create a new layer again. And for this one, it should be below the stem. For this layer, we are going to draw 1 petal of the flower. I am also changing the streamline of my technical brush to 100%. Then let's create a new layer again. For this layer, we are going to draw two petals behind the first petal that we drew a while ago. And just make sure that your shapes are close again, the same as what we did with the stems and the leaf a while ago. And then a new layer again, then a new petal, then a new layer again, and then a new petal. So I did that 5 times for all of the petals, which for this flower has 6 petals. Then now we are going to fill the shapes in, and to do that, just drag the color to the element on the current layer. So let's do that to all the petals. And as you can see here, there is a gap, so I'm going to create a new layer again to fill that in. Because that was the fold for the petal, and I want to add shadows later on, so I separated them in 2 layers. And the next step is to add shadows and highlights to the petals. I use 2 methods for this step, and the first one is using the clipping mask, and the second is alpha lock. The first one that I'm going to show you is the clipping mask. First, let's create a layer where the shadow will be located, and that is behind the main petal, which will cast the shadow, and in front of the other petals which are behind the main petal. Then tap the thumbnail and select clipping mask. And since this is a shadow, I am using a darker shade of our petals color. And I am using the soft airbrush under airbrushing, and I am adding the shadow around the borders of our main petal. Now let's repeat that again with our folded petal. So the main shadow caster will be this one, and the shadow receiver will be this layer. Therefore, our shadow layer will be between them. And don't forget to turn on the clipping mask, then add the shadow. For the second method, we are going to use the alpha lock. Tap the thumbnail of the layer and just select the alpha lock. Then just add the shadow again, and it should be behind the petal which casts the shadow. You can also activate the alpha lock by swiping to the right with 2 fingers. Then let's add the shadows again. Now let's add the highlights using a lighter color and using the airbrush. I like to add the highlights in like a center line of the petals. Since this flower is basically done, we can group them by going to the layer menu and select the layers of the flower by swiping them to the right one by one, and once all of them are selected, tap the group option. And you can use this arrow here to expand or collapse the group. Once they are grouped, you can rename this group by tapping on its thumbnail and choosing rename. I will be naming this as the main flower. For the leaf, just fill it in with color by dragging the color inside the shape, and make sure that your current layer is the layer of the leaf. To add the details of the leaf, I am going to use a darker shade of green and a technical pen. But before we do that, let's create a new layer above the leaf and turn on the clipping mask on that layer. So for the details, I am going to add lines like this. So this lines kind of originates from the tip of the leaf, and it follows the curvature of the leaf, and they can either be long or short. When drawing these lines, make sure to start from the tip of the leaf and then flick the last part of the line so that the taper of the pen is more prominent. And if you need to undo, just tap the screen with 2 fingers to do that. Now for the stem, remember that we used a darker shade of green for this, so drag the color to the stem, and to color multiple enclosures, tap this continue filling with recolor option here, and just tap inside the shapes or enclosures. To suggest volume or depth, let's add some shadows and highlights again. So let's add a new layer and turn on its clipping mask. I'll add the highlights first, and I am adding them to the left side of the stem of the main flower. And of course, make sure to add highlights too to the smaller flower. I am adding the shadows on the right side of the stem, and just realized that I forgot to add the shadows and highlights on our leaf, so let's do that too. Let's add a new layer on top of our main layer of the leaf and then turn on the clipping mask again. Using the airbrush and a darker shade of green, we can add the shadow, and with a lighter shade of green, we can add the highlights. Then let's group all of this in, and I rename the group as leaves and stem. Now let's add a new layer that is behind this group for the first petal of our smaller flower. Then add a new layer behind the previous layer, and if you want, you can hide the previous petal by tapping the checkbox of the layer in the layer menu. On this layer, I am drawing the leftmost and rightmost petals, and then fill them in with color again. Then add another layer again for the last two petals at the back. And here I can see that there are parts of the petal that are sticking out, so I am just going to erase those. Then shadow and highlights time. And for this flower, I will be using the alpha lock, so 2-finger swipe to the right on the layer to turn on the alpha lock. Once satisfied with your shadows and highlights, group the layer in and rename. If you want to fine-tune this little flower, then go for it. Then finally, for the last leaf at the back, let's add a new layer, and this time this layer is behind everything except the sketch. Then draw the leaf and fill it in with color. If you are not happy with the position of the leaf, you can just tap the arrow icon here and reposition, resize, or rotate your leaf if you want. And I think I want the leaf to have a soft curve edge, so just draw the curve line and hold it. Once an arc is created, lift your pen, and if you want to, you can edit the arc. And I'll do that on both sides of the leaf. Our artwork feels a little incomplete yet, so I added a new layer here and I am drawing another leaf. And again, for the shadow and highlight, change your brush to a shadow brush and turn on the alpha lock on the layer, and also change the color to a darker shade if it is a shadow and a lighter shade for highlight. I also added a shadow on the leaf near the stem to create depth, or at least suggest that the leaves are behind the stems. I will also group these two leaves. On the leaves and stem group, let's expand it and add a new layer. This layer should be the topmost layer in the group, and here I am drawing two small leaves. The steps are draw the leaves, then fill it in with color, turn on the alpha lock on the layer, and also don't forget, because I kinda did, to add the details of the leaves, both on the small leaves at the front and the other two at the back, which I will go back to later on. I also added more line details on our biggest leaf just because. For presentation purposes, you can change the color of the background layer if you want. Anyway, if you want to turn this drawing to a digital sticker, keep on watching. So what we are going to do is, on the layer menu, let's group all the layers together. Then swipe the main group to the right and select duplicate. Then on the duplicate, tap its thumbnail, then select flatten. Then duplicate this flattened image again. On the color menu, select the color white by double tapping on the area near the color white. Then let's go back to our layer menu and tap on the lower duplicate and select fill. Turn off the alpha lock. Now let's tap on the wand icon and select the Gaussian blur in the layer option. Then tap, hold, and slide on the screen to vary the amount of Gaussian blur. I am adjusting mine to around 12%. Then go to the layer menu and let's duplicate this layer twice and do a pinching motion on the 3 layers to combine the 3. Then let's duplicate the layer again and again until you are satisfied. So what do you think of this flower? Is it a tulip or a crocus? So comment down below, and don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more content like this one. Also, tune in as I will release a new spring blossom tutorial very soon, but for now, enjoy these other videos of mine. See you next time. Bye!